So this is just a quick note on the coolant bypass mod, which is a common mod to go ahead and short circuit these two coolant hoses together and bypass the upper intake manifold plenum. The logic being is that it could be a performance upgrade because you want your intake air to be cool, so why would you put hot coolant up into it? It really doesn't make much of a performance difference, but the two main reasons why it may be a good idea is because it makes servicing anything that involves removing your upper intake manifold plenum a lot easier because you don't have to mess around with these two coolant hoses that are often difficult to get to because you have limited access behind the firewall here. The other reason is that old trucks and rubber hoses, they dry rot, they leak, and it's just a nuisance. Even if you replace all of the hoses, you can still have a tendency to get leaks underneath your intake manifold plenum, and so it eliminates at least 6 different hose junctions that have a tendency to leak. So the two ways that you can bypass the upper intake manifold is going to be to get a 90-degree fitting and just connect this hose into this one. Just as a note, I got a 1/2 inch fitting and a 90-degree elbow from Home Depot. That did not fit, it was too small. They didn't have a 5/8, so I had to go to 3/4. 3/4 was way too big. I then ordered a 5/8 fitting off of Amazon, and that was way too big. It was almost the size of a 3/4 inch fitting at Home Depot. And then I finally went to Lowe's and I got a 1/2 inch fitting, which fit very well. So if you want to do the 90-degree fitting, you gotta shop around and make sure you get like a big 1/2 inch or a true 5/8 maybe. So you gotta kind of try a couple different variations to get one that fits tightly but not too tight. That's not going to eliminate any leaking that is occurring at the base of those hoses. So the other option is reach down there even further, remove the base of this 90-degree and remove this vertical hose, and then just get a 5/8 diameter heater hose. You can get this in AutoZone or Advanced Auto. They just got a spool of bulk hose in the back. You can buy 1 foot of it and you just loop it straight up, loop it, do a U-turn and go back down. So I went ahead and I'm just going to do the 90-degree fitting, and I'm going to start by just putting a little bit of silicone RTV on the fitting to make sure that it gets a really good adhesion to the rubber hoses. So I already have the loose hose clamps on the hose, so I'm just going to go ahead and slide it into each hose and then I'll clamp them tight. So depending on your type of clamp, screw it in. That was nice and tight now. I got to get to this one in the back. You got to finagle a short stubby screwdriver or a ratchety nut driver if you got worm gear style clamps. Otherwise, pliers. Get a spring style clamp in place. And then you have now bypassed your coolant to the upper intake manifold, making servicing quite a bit easier and reducing probability of leaks. So I mentioned the mechanism that controls the idle based on the engine temperature, and I don't really have that anymore, but it was on this guy right here. It had kind of a semicircular type cam surface on it, and basically it just pushed up a certain amount on the bottom of this throttle plate. And as the temperature rose, it retracts and lets it a little bit lower. So that actuation was done by this mechanism, which again, engine coolant's coming into it, so that either heats it up and expands it, and then it hits a lever on that cam surface, and that will either push up or bring down the engine RPM.